right, so I'm gonna call you Stuart just because it seems like it'll be easier for me to remember to be professional. So
Sure.
Hopefully that's okay.
Whatever's easiest for you, man.
Excellent. So let's jump in with Scarecrows. I got a chance to watch it earlier today. What do you think is it is about?
What do I think you thought about it?
No. What do you think it is about horror that is so appealing for audiences?
I mean, people obviously love to feel stuff when they consume any content, but especially in the movies. You know, you go to the movies or you watch a movie because you want to connect with it and feel something. Go on a ride. It's like a roller coaster without actually having to drive to the theme park and get on the roller coaster. It's just like, it's supposed to suspend your disbelief, and horror is always like this sort of place where people, don't, it's like a thrill, you know what I mean? A cheap thrill. Also, from a filmmaking standpoint, horror is so good because there's so much more fun you can have. Like, there's almost no rules. You know, you can make up your rules.
Yeah.
There's nothing sort of off limits, and anything can happen. Doesn't have to be, anything from your wildest imagination. You can just do it, and there's nobody to tell you that, like, right or wrong, because there's not really rules like that. It's a lot of fun for the people making the movies and the people who are watching them. I guess that's the main thing, is that there's not a genre that has more. It has a little bit of everything packed into it. You know what I mean? There's laughs, there's some action, there's scares. Hopefully you connect with the characters and you kind of feel something if they get killed. And, that's taking a little bit from every other genre and sort of putting it in a blender, and adding some blood.
Yeah.
Instead of milk.
You mentioned, like, you can create your own rules with horror. With this one, you wrote it and directed it. Can you talk a little bit about the writing process and basically how the script evolved for you guys?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of it stemmed from the lessons that we learned when our first movie was called The Haunted House on Kirby Road, and it was basically a horror. These kids, they these teens go to a haunted house that they think is haunted. They smoke some weed. Bad shit starts happening in the house, and we had so much fun making it. But then, when we were sort of watching the movie back and just the process of making it, it was like supernatural spirits in the house. So there was no bad guy that you can have sort of chasing the kids around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we really wanted to create sort of a bad guy of our own, a villain that people would, connect to. We grew up, in that era of Jason and Freddy and Mike Myers and, these great bad guys. And you almost aren't watching the movie because you're cheering for the people to live. You're kind of rooting for Mike Myers to chop a babysitter up.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to create a bad guy this farmer sort of character, he's our guy. It's like if you think about, being trapped in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of the dark, you're not going to find your way out. And if there's a guy that knows the lay of the land, and so there's sort of like a maze where he knows the moves and you don't.
Yeah.
It's sort of a really great cat and mouse idea. So it kind of spawned with we came up with that first and sort of worked our way backwards. How do we get the kids into the cornfield? But also, when you're writing a movie, when you're shooting, an indie level horror movie, you don't have millions of dollars like most people have. So even when you're writing the script, you have to keep in mind how much money it's going to cost to do these things. So you kind of have to find that one location is sort of got to be your main location for almost the whole movie, because otherwise you won't be able to afford to shoot your movie. So a cornfield seemed like an amazing main location, because I haven't really, I remember seeing Children of the Corn as a kid, and it's just a really creepy kind of place with the right music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that sort of dictates the limitation. There's limitations for sure. So you can't have too many locations. You can't have 40 actors. You can't do all those things. You can't have CGI to kill people. You have to, everything has to sort of fit. The math has to work.
Yeah.
So, we came up with the 4 characters. We had to get them to the cornfield, and then we got to start killing them. So, I think that our sort of angle on horror movies is more of like a popcorn horror, stoner kind of horror thing, where we're not necessarily taking ourselves so seriously. The audience is sort of in on it at times, and I think that's generally the tone that we're going for, and I think it kind of works. It sort of feels like you're watching, like, you forget that you're watching a horror movie, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is a horror movie. It's like the first kind of 20 minutes, I feel like the audience is going to get so comfortable in such a relaxed, happy place, just
hanging out with the four people.
Just hanging out with the 4 kids, laughing, getting to know them, seeing that they're just like stupid kids, and then, oh yeah, this is actually something bad's going to happen.
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, like with this genre, you can kind of sprinkle in the humor, and that's something that I noticed with this particular film. Is that kind of like something that you always do, or is that something you always plan to do, or is that kind of just like it just kind of happened when you guys were developing the kids?
Well, I think it comes down to like when you're like writing and creating these stories. So like, who are the writers? So like Adam and I, we're not like snuff horror guys. It's not even in our brain to like torture somebody and do these really graphic movies that have been coming out lately. I mean, I think comedy is more where I come from, and I think a movie like Scream to me is like so memorable because you laughed. Even in Get Out recently, like, it's a horror movie for sure, but it's definitely funny too.
Yeah.
And I think that I just love that combination. And I think even like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, as like they got further into the series, humor became like a big thing. Like Freddy would say like something really funny before he like chopped somebody up.
Yeah.
It turned into that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think that's also just like our voice in general. Like that's who we are. Like the type of horror movies we make are for people like us. We're not looking to see, Eli Roth movies are awesome, but like, it's hard to watch sometimes. We don't do that. So I think, telling a story with humor is sort of our strength, so you got to play to your strengths. And I think it's a great tool also. It's like if you're laughing 1 minute, it's easier for me to scare you too, know?
That's a really good point. And I also, like, with the humor, there was another thing that I really liked about the film. It felt timeless. Like you mentioned Scream, you mentioned Nightmare, you mentioned like a lot of the big boys, and like a lot of times, you can put those on and they do, like Scream, I don't know, it seems very 90s, but it's still watchable. But some of those other movies you can't really connect to unless you kind of like allow yourself to. With Scarecrows, I felt you couldn't really pinpoint an era as to when it was happening, and I really liked that a lot. And I was curious, was that like a conscious choice, or just kind of a something like based on the circumstance, just kind of a happy accident?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, right? It's like you try to catch lightning in a bottle whenever you're doing these types of things. But I mean, I think the synergy definitely allowed it to. That's really cool that you thought that way. I love that. But yeah, definitely, like this city is like any town USA, any year USA, like for sure. And we didn't really, all of the stuff that happens in the movie, even the car that they're driving is like a old school car that a kid in the 90s or 2000s or anywhere, it would still be a classic car no matter when the movie's set. It's really interesting. I never completely thought of it like that, but now that you say it, it's pretty interesting.
Well, now you can use it. So going forward, just let them know it was a conscious choice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely.
The car was what kind of, I guess, ignited that idea in my mind, and I was like, I'm going to try to catch them throughout this film and see if there's any, giveaways, and there's really not. And I mean, even the conversation about the car, the girl was like, this is a piece of shit, and the guy was like, this is classic, man, like it is what it is. And it really felt like relatable, and like not just for me, but like I'm sure to a lot of people. And I really wanted to applaud you on that, especially especially if it wasn't a conscious choice. It really speaks to like how well the characters were conceived, and I really enjoyed that. So keep it.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. You're like making me feel real great.
Well, it's cool, man. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into one of these things from start to finish, and even if it's not like a Marvel movie or something of the sort, it's still a lot of work. Even for two guys talking about making a stoner horror movie, there's still a lot of effort, and there's still a lot of people that.
Oh man, it's like double. What do you mean? It's like those guys have. Listen, those movies have big budgets, not only because of like the CGI and all, and you're paying these famous actors, but there's also like a crew of like 1,000 people that all have to get paid to work on it.
Yeah.
And then you also have to like rent a killion things, and it's just like so many things that we're a crew of like under 20.
Yeah.
I have to wear 20. I have to wear 20 hats. Adam has to wear 20 hats. It's if you want to get the movie done, it's like everybody's kind of helping out in every way, shape, or form. It's like really filmmaking at this level. You're with people that are like in it for the love. They like are passionate. They want to be there. They're trying to, this is a lot of people's entryway into the business. But the people are very passionate. They'll go the extra mile. It's like a real team effort. It doesn't feel like people are there because they have to be there. People are there because they want to. And because you're making a horror movie, it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When you're killing people and chasing through the thing, and everyone's kind of laughing in between takes. We're not making Saving Private Ryan here. It's like we're having fun. And I think that the actors had a great time. And I thought, these are first time, these kids are getting this type of opportunity to have these kind of size roles, right?
Yeah.
And they killed it. They were all so great. And it was just it's so much fun. I actually score the movie, write the movie, direct the movie. Adam produces the movie. He writes the movie. He's running the set all day. The crow that was supposed to show up on the morning of the day when we were shooting, like with the actual bird, we get a call that the bird died.
Oh wow!
And so, what the hell are we gonna do? We have a fucking movie with Scarecrows. Where's the bird? So we had to like find another bird guy, and at that point you're left like, okay, well, what do you want to do for the next couple hours? Now we have a whole opportunity to shoot something we didn't even think we were going to shoot, and it ends up making it in the movie. So it's like you said, happy accidents definitely happen along the way. But man, it's like you have to hold the project's hand from, we're talking like before there's even one word typed on the computer, all the way through to the shooting, the editing, the coloring, the everything.
Yeah.
It's like everything takes so much time, and then you hand it in. You feel so much more accomplished, I guess, when you realize how much work you put into it. Because like I said, we don't have a team of 50 people to like delegate things to. You got to do everything. It's crazy, but it is fun. I'm not complaining.
No, I totally understand. Like professionally, I do like commercials and things, and so like even considering something feature length is that's quite the balancing act. And I know you have a lot of hats based on acting, music, producing, directing, writing, and you also mentioned the cast, which researching the cast. I was amazed that a lot of these guys hadn't done a lot of stuff, and especially the way that they were selling their character pretty well. And I was curious from your perspective, was this like the cast you imagined? Like, did you imagine them looking like this as an ensemble when you were putting the pen to the paper?
I mean, you sort of have. I know for, like, the character of the farmer's son, like, when we were writing that character, I had, like, a specific guy in mind that I was thinking of when I wrote it, and, like, he ended up being the guy that was in the movie. Like, that was a pretty crazy circumstance. But as far as the kids go, it's so interesting, man. It's like people who are really talented and just need a break and, like, want to get a part. They're auditioning for, like, pizza commercials and Doritos commercials and a couple lines in some CSI Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard for them to get a chance. And when a movie like this comes around, like a horror movie where, as everyone, the thing about horror movies is like, you don't need to have big stars in them because people go to horror movies not because of who's in them. They go because it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
They want to see a scary movie. You don't have to have famous people. So people who are trying to catch a break, these are the dream projects because they're going to get a lead role and have a chance to really do stuff and build, get their career going. You see famous people get made from horror movies. Like, what's his name? Johnny Depp is in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, George Clooney, his first movie was a horror movie. I mean, there's
like,
tons.
The list goes on, and I'm sure it's a who's who. Yeah. So, who knows? What the girl that was the lead on her Kirby Road movie, it was the same thing. And then a year later, she's on, hold on, what's that show called? What's Nina's show that she's on? What's the show? Oh, Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so now she's like, her career's off and running. And she was great. But it's like, you see a pool of talent, and not everybody that comes in is great, believe me.
Yeah.
It's like very American Idol in a lot of ways. But, when the kid walked in for Farbsy, it was like, he was so amazing. He actually read the Eli part. And I was, Adam and I, when he left the room, we were like, what part does he want? Like, give him what he would like. This kid we need him. And that's sort of just what happens. Like, these kids walk in the room and you can just tell. It's like you can sort of teach people to hit their mark, and you can teach people to find their light, and you can teach people where to look and, how to block a scene, but you can't teach charisma. Like, if someone has it, that goes a long way. Like, you know what I mean? It's unteachable.
Yeah, if they have it, you can make it work.
I mean, that's what it was. You had like a bunch of boring people coming in, and these kids just shined head and shoulders above everybody else. And they killed it.
Yeah.
The girl who plays Devin, the girl that gets like her mouth sewn up in the chair.
Yeah.
She's like, that's like unbelievable. When she opens her mouth and the string, kind of breaks when she's freaking out in the chair. It's such a real moment that even in a silly movie like Scarecrows, for me watching it, it was like, wow, that's like actually like really good.
Yeah.
So she was great. They were all great. Everybody was great, and it's very rare that I've been in enough productions over the years where it's like people say, "Oh, everybody was great," but really they weren't. But that was not the case here. Like, everybody was great. Yeah,
it's just the right thing to say. I was going to ask you about the challenges, working on this film, but I think the story about the bird will suffice. The one thing I do want to know, though, is there anything that you would like change? Seeing the final project, having been there since the beginning, and then actually having a physical copy like in your hand. Do you look back and think, man, I should have done this?
Well, of course. I mean, if somebody tells you, if anybody who's like a director tells you that there's nothing they would change, they're like lying to you. Of course, there's always stuff that you could do better. There's always, I wish I had more money. I could do 5 more days. I could take my time and really do more. But I can only do what I could do. You got to shoot 8 pages a day. In 15 days. That's very crazy. So, you don't really have time to sort of do what you could do as an extra. It's just more money. That would be great.
Where was it filmed?
It was filmed in a farm in just outside of Toronto, about 25 minutes outside of the city. Like, all of a sudden, it just becomes farms. And literally, we had like no idea where we were going to do this. We were going to farms and meeting with people, and they were like quoting us like $12,000 and just crazy numbers that like there's no way it's going to work. And on our drive home from like a defeated meeting with this farm that wanted like 12 grand, we see this farm, and my partner Adam, he just like turns into the farm, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "We're gonna get this farm." I'm like, "Dude, we're gonna get shot."
Yeah. Like,
we pull up on this long road. There's like this, literally like out of the movies, like an old man in overalls. Like, he could have had like a shotgun on him. I don't know. I might be embellishing on the shotgun, but let's just say he had a shotgun.
Okay.
And we're like, whoa, what the fuck? We get out of the car. He's like, what can I do you for, boys? It was like, it was so crazy. And somehow we were just like, hey, we're filmmakers. We want to shoot a movie. And he's like, well, I got a farmhouse that needs a new floor. Like, can you put the floor in? And we're like, sure. And then he gave us the farm. He, like, even went on his tractor and, like, cut. Like, we were able to design, like, what's the map going to be? What do we need the maze to be so we could shoot and not get lost?
Oh, that's amazing.
He's like, yeah, so he went above and beyond, and you know, our production manager and a couple of PAs like put in the new floor, and that's filmmaking.
That's
you know,
crazy.
that's how we got the farm, and it turned out to be the best. You know, we were there at his farm for the majority of the shoot, and he was so cool. It couldn't have worked out better. You know, Adam's next door neighbor is like this like amateur woodsman, and he was like, "I'll make a cross for you." So he made the crosses, and we gave him a credit too. Like in the credits, it's like cross made by Adam's neighbor Joe. We don't even know his last name.
That's awesome.
But it's like that type of stuff, like the chair, the kill chair. We didn't have that chair till 2 days before. We like randomly went to some garage sale, and like there it was, and we just bought it. And like 2 days before the shoot, all of a sudden this amazing piece just lands on your lap. So it's like sometimes the film gods just shine. I mean, I don't think Scarecrows is going to like change the world. Don't get me wrong. But it's a lot of fun, and I think we've created like with our best possible effort, something that people will have fun watching.
Yeah, it's a fun world.
They're not going to be like, ugh, like I don't even understand that. Like it's not a lot to understand. We make it pretty easy, and hopefully people will like it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and it was fun, and like I mentioned, I liked the humor and the timelessness, and those are, I mean, I can't really see people complaining about it, and it just unless they're, looking for something to complain about, and with that in mind, I really do think you succeeded as far as like creating something fun for an audience to watch.
I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
And a funny thing is that there's like this Easter egg in the movie that like, no one would know unless they watched our Kirby Road movie, but like it's pretty awesome. Like we're trying to, even with these movies, even if like Kirby Road, a lot of people still haven't seen that movie, obviously. But down the road, as we keep making movies, we're sort of building our own like universe where all of these stories sort of all exist in the same kind of place.
Yeah.
And so someday people will go back and rediscover Scarecrows, and they'll be like, "Oh my God!" Because there's something that we're gonna put from Scarecrows in our next thing. I mean, we have also like a couple other really cool projects in the works. We have a documentary called Jack of All Trades that's gonna be coming out in the States soon, and it's basically an investigative documentary on like the rise and fall of like baseball cards in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. And
we shot some of that up in Dallas. I don't know, where are you located?
I'm actually in Houston. So, but
Houston?
Yeah, but I have a couple of friends that like write for Fangoria, so I'm always up in Dallas just to kind of mess with them for a little bit.
Ah, nice. Mattress Mac?
Yeah. He oddly enough, he was like, I work at a university, and he just did a speech here, so I just recorded him like a week ago.
Jim McInville?
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, me and Jamie Kennedy did a Mattress Mac commercial, like a real one. Like, we went to Houston, into his store, and with him, and did, like, a, save you money! Like, we did a whole commercial with him.
Yeah.
Aired on TV there. So it's really funny.
Dude, that's Mattress so Mac, random.
We thought that it was, like, we didn't realize, like, that he's, like, legit, It was just, like, Mattress Mac wants to do a mattress commercial.
Yeah.
So we thought it was just like an opportunity to be funny, but then we get there and realize like he's like the mayor of Houston.
Yeah, pretty
Everybody
much.
Loves this guy.
And the weird thing is, he's not even from here. He's from like Fort Worth, like the Dallas area.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, he just came here because there was like opportunity for him to become a furniture guy.
So funny, and like he's always in the news now. I'm here in Toronto, and I see he's doing like when there was the weather catastrophes going on over there, he was like opening up for free furniture. I don't know what he was doing, but he made world news.
Well, yeah, we have like one of those like mega churches here, and like Joel Osteen. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he actually denied people to come to his megachurch. Well, his megachurch is the place where the Houston Rockets used to play, so it's massive. So he denied people to go there, and then Mattress Mac heard about that, and then he was like, "Oh well, I'm opening all my stores to whoever wants to come stay." So he kind of like indirectly shit on Joel Osteen, but boosted his own kind of name quite a bit.
Joel Osteen's a fucking, I don't know about that guy.
Yeah, I know he's nuts. Yeah, it's a hot topic down here. But
wow, that's wild.
Yeah, I got a couple more for you, and then I think I'm good, man. Is there anything else you want to mention?
We have a couple other ones that are, we have some shit coming, man.
I'm excited, dude.
Put it that way. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch on this just because of who you are. You basically voiced my childhood. I mean, My Pet Monster, Super Mario Brothers, Swamp Thing, Beetlejuice, Wish Kid, and I'm only scratching the surface, man. I know you were pretty young, but like, how do you look back at that time in your life?
Fondly, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was because of those opportunities that I had early in life that I'm able to sort of walk down this path and try to start our own company and start making these kind of films and not making millions of dollars doing it. It thankfully is because of all that type of stuff that you just mentioned, and obviously that era you're speaking of, like, that's like the last great era of cartoons, you know what I mean? Yeah. I grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I think as I got to be, 10 and 11 years old from then on and started being in these cartoons, it was cool because I was of the age of these shows were popular. So these were like the shows that were popping, and it was just cool. It's pretty awesome. I'm a pretty lucky guy to have been so lucky to be in that era. Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no such thing as Saturday morning cartoons anymore. So just being able to have been a part of that, part of pop culture, is just, it's awesome.
I asked this to the guy that did the voice for Skeletor, and
that's legendary.
He gave me a very interesting answer, and I want to ask you too. And basically, have you ever used? Because I know you continue to do voices a little bit later, and you have some stuff like Ralphie. I mean, do people have you ever used those any of your voices to get laid? Do you just pull them out at the bar or anything like that?
No, I mean, listen, if you're going to a bar where doing the voice of a 10-year-old kid is the thing that's going to get you laid, that's probably not a legal place to be. And you probably just shouldn't be there. But no, I mean, listen, there's obviously people go crazy about that Magic School Bus for sure.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a hilarious icebreaker. It's not my lead, it's not my go-to spiel.
Yeah.
But it's not as far as embarrassing sort of skeletons in your closet, being Ralphie on Magic School Bus is definitely not an embarrassing one. It's funny and it's good. But I have used the voice. There used to be a web series that I used to be a part of where we would do, prank phone calls, and I would constantly call people as Ralphie, and the audience would love it.
Yeah.
And so I've definitely used the voice, and again.
Yeah.
But they just did, listen, you do a cartoon 20 years ago, and people still watch it. That's pretty lucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And kind of along that same line, you mentioned kind of growing up while these were on TV, and you were also in Goosebumps. You were in Are You Afraid of the Dark? I mean, was that kind of the same perspective? Were you the coolest kid in school or the coolest kid on the block because you went on those badass shows?
I don't think that I was never was I the coolest kid on the block for that. For sure not. I don't think people sort of understood what was going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't I would miss a lot of school, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was just sort of like, I don't know, I didn't get like, what people, it didn't change my high school life. I think when I first really kind of felt what anything meant was when I moved to LA, when I moved to LA and I was, 16, 17, 18 years old, it was like a whole different ballgame. And all those credits that you just spoke about, like, they carried weight, which was crazy. So, I didn't have any problem making friends, let's put it that way. It was, things, when I got to LA, that was my first taste of like, whoa, these people kind of know who you are.
Yeah.
All the kids, we all knew each other. We all saw each other. There was only like, now there's like 2,000 people auditioning for a role, but back then there's like 10 people going to every audition. So you would see the same people every time. And so, everyone's friends with each other. And it was pretty wild. Yeah, the goosebumps in the Are You Afraid of the Dark is like, it's very rare that someone was in both.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm thinking like Ryan Gosling was probably in both. But like,
I know Ryan Gosling was in like I know, and then Hayden Christensen was in like one or the other. There's a lot of people that did those shows, man. It's kind of weird once you dig.
Well, there's really like, think about it. So if there's 50 episodes of those shows shooting in the city,
yeah,
it's like eventually everybody's going to get to be on it because there's only like 50 actors in the city. So like by the time they're on episode like 47, like everybody's being, the Rolodex starts getting thin.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess from that perspective it makes sense, but like from someone that grew up with it, and I'm like just a viewer at the time, like I'm like, holy shit, I wish I was that kid. And
yeah, no, it was so fun. Imagine, I mean, listen, some kids play football, some kids play baseball. Obviously, I did those things in my spare time.
Yeah.
But my main thing was going and being, acting and doing that type of stuff. So just going on sets and being on sets, and that was just normal to me. It just didn't feel weird. It was like very easy. I liked it.
Yeah.
And I still like it.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's a pretty interesting perspective to have, and I guess like not a lot of people can relate to that because obviously you're doing both. Like you've kind of evolved in a sense and became the person making the art like in a different way. And I was wondering why. Like, is there something that happened maybe that made you want to become a director, or like is it just kind of the nature of the beast? Like, do you get more out of it?
Well, there's a few different ways that I can approach that. Number one is like, listen, if you do something every day since you're 2 years old, by the time you're like 22, it's like, is it still as exciting?
Yeah.
It's like, does it start getting stale? Going to go audition for, a Doritos commercial, like, you don't even want to go. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I think that this is a whole new world and a whole new way to sort of put what I already learned and, and there's more learning now.
Yeah.
It's like the whole new world. And it's exciting. And, having grown up and being able to be on sets all those years definitely helps. I know I feel great on the set. It's like being at home. But also I can help the actors and the crew and everybody else kind of feel the same way and put everybody sort of at ease that, like, this is a good place. This is, it's not as stressful as it has to be. Like, there's an expression like work smart, not hard.
Yeah.
So we try to work smart as much as we possibly can and try to have fun. As far as the real transition happened when I was doing my MTV show with Jamie Kennedy, and I had a chance to be the producer and the writer and it was a whole other world that it was so exciting. Like, there's so much more that goes into it than being an actor just showing up on set for your days and sitting in the makeup chair and going and doing your lines and going home. Like, you're live and breathe these movies 24 hours a day for like 6 to 9 months. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. So I got a chance to do that, and I was like, man, this is what I want. I want to do more. I want to create our own opportunities. Let's just create our own stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. So that's sort of was the main motivating factor when we started our company, 5-7 Films. Our original goal was like, hey, let's make movies that we could be in, because like Adam and I are both actors.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, that's like eventually that's what we'll do, but like let's get good at making movies and then do it. So that sort of like spawned this whole Kirby Road and Scarecrows and whatever's next and next. You know, eventually we'll be at a place where we're really doing some damage, and then it'll be time, you know, to dust off the old acting chops.
I know I worded that really weird, but you did basically, you got to where I wanted it to go, and I think that is the perfect way to end this conversation.
Okay, cool. Well, it was nice talking to you, and look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think you'll see when you see Kirby Road, you'll see like the improvements that were made from one to the other, and I think you're sort of going to see what's going on.
Yeah, well, my plan is I'm gonna I watched Scarecrows without my girlfriend, so now I'm gonna watch Kirby Road and then rewatch Scarecrows back to back, and then we'll make a day.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
I love it.
Right.
Let me know how that goes.
I will, man. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.